What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here and back here with yet another update for you today. And today we're going to be looking at the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. They've come out with yet another statement today, and as well they did a Q&A which they released today as well. So we're going to be going through every word that has been said by the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust in regards to the whole Enic out debate and the whole Enic situation. So yeah, let's get into it and let's see what has been said. Let's bring it up on the phone and we'll see.
I think it's just important leading up to the protests that are planned for this weekend that all the updates regarding the supporters trust are covered, and we know exactly where they stand on a few things and what their message is at the moment compared to what the wider message is.
Correct.
From the fan base. So they did release an updated statement yesterday. Obviously, we went through their 6-point plan they released a few days ago. 6 ways to move for Tottenham moving forward. They put it as, and if you want to check out that video, that was a couple of days ago, so go check that out. We did a live stream on that. So they released an updated statement as of yesterday, saying since the club announced it was joining the then swiftly withdrawing from the European Super League, our aim has been to ensure that a situation like this never occurs again. That means the club and the trust need to talk, but clearly any discussions cannot be business as usual. For years, the club denied it was involved in plotting a breakaway or sidestepped questions on the subject when we raised them at meetings with the club board. We clearly stated fan opposition to the kind of proposals that materialised in the ESL on a number of occasions, both verbally and in writing. The club chose to disregard those views while simultaneously engaging in the very conversation it denied were happening, which we have said before, which was so sneaky and disingenuous and pretty disgusting.
It was disgusting,
board.
you know.
That's one of the big issues a lot of people have with it.
And the line they said to them is, we don't speak about hypotheticals, when they're actually speaking about it. It's ridiculous.
Planning it. It's not even a hypothetical. They're literally planning the Super League.
Of course.
And then it says, we cannot ignore what a serious breach of trust and blatant disregard for the principles of consultation. That breach of trust has damaged the club's relationships across football, not just with the supporters trust. So we need guarantees that any further meetings will not be undermined by secret negotiations and behind-the-scenes plots, and that fan views will not be ignored. Supporters must have confidence that any discussions are being conducted genuinely and in good faith. And I think it's important because obviously we personally haven't been involved in these meetings that they've had previously, and we don't have like a relationship with the Tottenham board and whatnot, but these guys do. These people have been having for years regular meetings with the Tottenham board and have been discussing various issues, whether it be ticket prices or all these different things, and they've built a relationship up with them, and to have it thrown back in their faces like this must be extremely hard to look past.
Yeah, I mean, from the way I gather things is that Tottenham just plan these meetings without giving them too much say, just to shut them up, kind of thing, and I think that's been proved by the Super League.
Yeah, I agree, completely agree. And the fact they went behind the back and not even brought up in any of the meetings, and obviously for this supporters trust, it's going to completely eroded any sort of trust that there was, which is leading to this situation where they're calling for a new board. So people like it even separates it from, yes, the club was well run from business side and all that kind of stuff. You can put that to one side because this is a separate issue, completely separate issue, which needs to be rectified. And a lot of people I understand people who stood back Enic and whatever because they think they've done a good business job. I don't get it, but whatever. I understand it. But like this situation isn't going to be resolved easily, basically.
No, it's not. And look, it goes on to say how they think they can resolve it. But look, let's move on.
It says, having been unable to reach an agreement with the club on how talks should be conducted, we have approached the Football Supporters Association to mediate. The FSA has put forward a basis for mediation, and we have accepted that. We are waiting to hear whether the club accepts it. So the club basically the ball's in the club's court right now as to whether they accept the mediation put forward by the supporters trust that the FSA will mediate. So we'll see what comes of that going forward. They should really accept it. I don't see a reason why they won't.
Yeah,
if they really want the dialogue.
Yes, obviously it's important to note that there's been 2 requests by Daniel Levy to speak to the supporters trust, which has both been turned down by the supporters trust, and this is what they're trying to bring in place of that.
Because they just don't trust that any discussions are going to happen in good faith, and they don't trust what's being said by who they're talking to because of what's happened. It says, we recognise that our call for the executive board to resign is a serious step. Their decisions have caused severe reputational damage to our club and already cost the club money in the shape of a financial penalty from UEFA, which is important to note. There could be more, there could be more to come. We are happy to discuss why we think resignations are necessary and to hear the club's view on who should be accountable for what has happened. But we cannot pretend that business as usual is an option. The club standing with the whole football community has been affected, which they haven't even recognised, to be honest, the Tottenham board. Our commitment to a dialogue cannot be doubted. Indeed, we have faced criticism at times for that commitment. For many years, we have fought hard to establish and maintain meaningful discussions with senior decision makers at the club. It is now clear that regulatory change is required, and that's why we are working with senior government and sport industry figures and other fan groups to deliver that change. In the last 3 weeks, we've met with the Prime Minister, the Secretary of State, Leader of the Opposition, Shadow Secretary, Shadow Sports Minister, and the Premier League Executive, as well as being in constant dialogue with fan groups at the other Big Six clubs and the Football Supporters Association. We have further demonstrated our commitment to dialogue by putting forward a clear 6-point agenda for discussion. All of those 6 points are aligned with the ideas put forward at other Big Six clubs and being actively considered by the government fan-led review. We encourage the club to accept that proposal for mediation and begin to address the issues it has with the fans. That needs to happen sooner rather than later. Once that meeting happens, we will consult our membership on our next steps. And it is important to note when they say our commitment to dialogue cannot be doubted, because some people have criticised them for turning down these meetings for Daniel Levy. And some of them are saying that you can't move forward if you're not going to even meet with the hierarchy. But I think it is important to note that throughout their whole, whenever I've seen, I regularly read the Tottenham Hotspur Trust meeting notes when they get released. I do regularly read them, and they are always, most of the time, although they do have complaints with how the club is run, they most of the time are understanding with the position of the hierarchy. Most of the time they give a very fair explanation of events, and even if they say in their meeting notes like this point we disagreed with or this point there was pushback on, there is always an explanation of the other side of the coin. There's always a fair explanation of where the board and the hierarchy are coming from in all these situations. And so for them to come up with strong statements, I think for me does mean something, is a big point.
I think it's very similar to us in the case of that they always backed kind of Enic and the running of this club up until the Super League. And then obviously they had problems with the way the club was being run, but on a whole, they backed Enic, didn't they?
In terms of there was always like issues we'll say like ticket prices and travel, and always taking fans into consideration. For example, the kickoff times and all things like this. They have had issues. They have had issues, but they've never called for anything as drastic as this.
They've never called for the board to step down. They've never changed for change of ownership. They've never called for anything like that. And I think that on a whole, Enic have been backed by the Supporters Trust, and I think we back them as well, up until the Super League, which was the last straw, and then kind of it opens our eyes to everything else that has happened in the last 5 years or so, even more than that. Yeah. So I think that the Supporters Trust is kind of in the same boat as us and the same thinking as us in terms of that.
Yeah, so I definitely implore Daniel Levy and the board to accept the mediation from the FSA, and we can get these meetings. The Supporters Trust can get the meetings on the road, better show on the road, and we can move forward with how we can best move Tottenham forward at the moment. Because at the moment, the relationship between the fans and the hierarchy have completely broken down, and it's their responsibility at the moment to rebuild that relationship. And they need to stick out an olive branch, or probably more than that, to get that ball rolling. Yeah,
at the end of the day, the trust between the two have completely gone. There is no trust whatsoever from the Supporters Trust in terms of Enic now, so they need to figure out other ways around it, because they've been lied to way too many times now. And at the end of the day, the only way that they can get two in the room with an actual concrete meeting with actual something substantial to come out of it is a mediation. It's the only way.
Agreed. They also released a Q&A, the Supporters Trust did, off the off the back of the release of the statement. This was released today, and they wanted to clarify a few of their positions, which people have been asking them. So we'll get that Q&A up. It says. They've been flooded with a lot of questions from fans, and they answered a few of them. So the first question was, why aren't you calling for Enic out, which is obviously the main message of the protest at the moment. They said, we don't believe calling for any owner to leave without knowing what comes next is a responsible course of action. We understand the anger of many fans, but football has seen too many changes of ownership fail to deliver change. Remember, Enic were the new broom when Sir Alan Sugar stepped down. In addition, a large section of our supporters takes the view that the business side of the club has been largely well run. In the absence of any prospective new owners, we have to seek influence on the ones we have. And yeah, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I know the message that is Enic out because what they have done is caused so much anger and has caused a lot of emotional responses. And obviously that anger is going to lead to this kind of messaging, which is we need to get these owners out of the club if they're not going to be helping the footballing side of the football club, and if they're going to be using it as a cash cow to withdraw funds for themselves and not put any money into the club, and then they're going to try and take the club away from us. That is obviously the message. We don't want you to run this club anymore. However, as we've said before, we've said it previously about people saying Enic out and Levy out and stuff like, it is not a viable option until there's an alternative. We've always said that.
I said this on the 6-point step video, and I said that Enic out has to be the message. It has to be the message because it's a strong message at the end of the day.
Enic reform doesn't have the same ring to it.
You know what I mean? Ideally, we want change at the top. Massive change needs to happen at the top, whether that's Enic out, whether that's Enic with changing their board, whether it's Enic changing the way they run things. I'm not sure the right way to go is. I don't know. We're just fans at the end of the day, but drastic change needs to happen. Mm-hmm. That's the key message, and I think that Enic out is the message that we put out there. Enic in its current state needs to leave. That's the message.
Yeah, if they're going to keep carrying on as they are, then you Enic out. Yeah. If you're going to change, look, obviously we need proof, and it's going to take time, a lot of time, to build that trust again, or anywhere near that trust. And for some people, for a lot of people, it will be irreparable, what's happened in the relationship. But the message is, if you're going to carry on the way you're conducting yourselves at the moment, then we want you out. Yeah. But if you do change, right, and you actually change, like real meaningful change, then things might happen. Different things might happen. That trust might be able to be rebuilt. But it's a long way down the road. It's a long way down the road.
Of course it's a long way down the road. And we want them just to act in the best interests of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, not Tottenham Hotspur Business as well. Obviously, you've got to keep an eye on the business side as well. But you need to concentrate on both as a football club.
Exactly. Will you be backing the Enic out protest? They said,
yes.
We says, we are not in the business of telling anyone how they should express their views. As long as they are lawful and respectful, we understand why people will be calling for Enic out. But as we explained above, we don't think that slogan alone provides the solutions that are needed. We will have a presence at the stadium on the day of our home match against Villa on the 19th of May, and we've asked fans to express their views with us then. Details of what we are doing will be released over the next week or so. We think the success of any campaign depends on it being positive and unifying, and that's the approach we will be taking. So it seems they're going to be doing some sort of demonstration on the 19th.
How can you be positive in what they're saying? How can you be positive and unifying? What does that mean in terms of a protest or a demonstration?
In terms of staying on message, thinking of ways to move forward for the club, being constructive, and I guess everyone pulling in the same direction. That's what they mean. But it's interesting, they say they're doing something for the 19th, so they're not going to have a presence there for this weekend.
Yeah, it looks as though they've distanced themselves from the process happening this weekend.
But I would say when we were trying to arrange a protest back when it happened, the Super League, I think the Super League was still actually a thing when we were at the protest. They were very much in support.
And also, it's worth noting that when I went down to the protest, albeit a very small protest, they had a presence there.
Yeah. So I think, so it's not like it seems like ever since the Super League has been disbanded, then they've gone a slightly different direction.
That protest happened after the Super League
That
was
was the day
disbanded,
after, wasn't it? Yeah.
And they had a presence there.
Okay, so it's important to note that. Why are you refusing to meet the club? It says we are not refusing to meet the club, but we can't just carry on with business as usual and pretend nothing has happened. We do not believe our members would accept a meeting going ahead without a clear idea of what it's for and what it could achieve, or without it being fully reported. Trust in the club's where was it gone?
Trust in the club's commitment.
Where is that
Genuine
gone?
conversation has been severely damaged.
Yeah.
And that trust needs to be repaired. With communication proving difficult, we have asked for independent mediation. So that just goes back to the point that we were talking about before.
Yeah,
from the statement.
Exactly. So you've covered that. What would you like to see happen? It says we have put forward a 6-point plan that we believe gives Tottenham Hotspur a way forward. This plan is in line with measures being pushed for our other clubs across the country, and with proposals being actively considered by the government fan-led review. Our view is that only by fans being properly involved in the decision-making structure of football clubs can we ensure that football side of the football business is given priority. Yeah, well, so if you go, as you said before, if you want to see the 6-point plan or us go through it anyway, we have a video on it on our channel, so go check that out.
Yeah, and if you just want to look just at the 6-point plan, do go to the Supporters Trust website because it is on there.
Exactly. Isn't the idea of fans having power over decisions just wishful thinking? The answer is no. It is the result of carefully considered proposals that take account of the realities of business and of the unique nature of sporting businesses. Former Commercial Secretary to the Treasury, Lord O'Neill, is just one of a senior figure who has backed legislation to enforce proper representation of fans' needs and desires. Change is coming to English football, and we have a chance to make sure that change works.
I think that's right in terms of what they say about changes coming into English football, and it feels like we're at the turning point of something. I'm just not sure what just yet.
I think, look, there's always proposals being put forward, fan-led proposals, and the government-led reviews at the moment with fan-led reviews. So we'll have to see what proposals come out of all of that and see what gets put forward. There's definitely change coming. There's definitely something brewing, and we have to see what that change is. So another question. So it isn't just a power grab by the Supporters Trust. No, our 6-point plan proposes representation for a wide range of fan constituencies, for example, season ticket holders, members and official supporters clubs, as well as the Trust. The Trust is able to play a unique role because of our democratic structure, articles of association and the knowledge and contacts we've built up. The Trust's rules mean that no member of the Trust board can be a director, non-executive or otherwise of the club. Our plans are about giving fans a greater say, not a single organisation.
And that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want. And when they say that giving the fans of the greater say, that is literally the main point of what we want. That's what we want. If we're going to reform the board, that's exactly what we want. We need fans sitting on that board. We need fan representatives sitting on that board that actually have a real say instead of just being there as a token gesture.
Exactly, definitely. And I think having a few representations from a few fan-led groups will definitely help move that forward.
And it's also important to note that Grandpa's thrown his hat in the ring.
Of course he has. He wants to be, and we'll see if Grandpa has anything to say. But yeah, good luck to him, I guess. Would those changes mean Tottenham Hotspur Football Club bought the players it needs? I don't think it will, but it says, who knows? No fan group anywhere is asking for direct influence on playing or coaching matters. That wouldn't work. But what we can do is ensure that sporting success is the focus of the business rather than being a desirable byproduct of the business.
Yeah.
That's what we mean by putting fans and football back at the heart of the club. Anyone who promises they can bring in whatever player they want and guarantee success, whether they be a prospective owner or a protest group, is making a promise they cannot keep. We need to work for changes that mean our club are primarily sporting institutions and not investments.
Exactly, and then that's a great point, because that's exactly what's been ripped out on the heart of the soul of this club, where business has been put first, the sporting merits have been taken a back seat. And that's not what we're all about. You know, that's not what football is about. Football is about being proud of your club for merits they achieve on the pitch. You know what I mean? And that has been ripped out of our football club, and we need to get that back of the heart and the soul of this club.
Yeah, for too long, business decisions have overruled footballing decisions at this club for far too long.
Yeah.
And it's about time that changes. Absolutely about time.
Pretty much as long as I can remember.
And we're not asking, Spurs have to spend 200 million or we have to spend this, but we're just asking when there's a footballing decision where there's a deal to be done, and this manager really wants his player, and there's a deal. That deal clearly can be done, and it just takes a bit of meeting a middle ground with another club. But we always are so stubborn that we're never going to go past like a certain figure all the time, and where a tiny bit of movement can get the footballing side right, and we never do it.
And ultimately, on that as well, is that when you think about it, yeah, you spend more to make more, because these players are going to end up being worth a lot more than what we pay for them at the end of the day. Like, take Jack Grealish for an example, you know what I mean? If we would have spent a few more billion on him for 15 million, we would have an 80-90 million prospect on our hands right now.
Exactly. And then you, on the flip side as well, you got to think of charging the highest season ticket prices in the whole of Europe. The charging 60 quid for the game later this season. Like, all these kind of decisions as well, they have to be looked at.
I've always felt that on that footballing side, every time we save a million here, 2 million there, 3 million there on not signing these players, we're losing money. We're not making money. We're actually losing money
down the line. How much did signing in G and Nkudu cost us? Because we made a massive loss on both of them. You know what I mean?
But how many players that we could have spent just a couple more million, and then their value like triples or doubles over the next year?
Yep, definitely right. But wouldn't making those changes at Spurs put us at a disadvantage compared to other clubs who are working to secure changes across the game that give every club a better chance of succeeding where it matters? On the pitch, we've seen from the huge opposition to the European Super League plans that fans are prepared to speak up and take action to defend the integrity of the sport. This gives us a chance to put right some of the things that have undermined that integrity. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Absolutely spot on. Okay, you've convinced me. What do you want me to do now? Well, this question's been... You've convinced the questioner, apparently. It says, answer, join the Supporters Trust and strengthen our voice. Thousands of you have done so over the last month. Write to Daniel Levy at TottenhamHotspur.com and tell him you support our proposals. Write to your MP and ask them to back the plans to reform football, establish an independent regulator for the sport, and give fans a voice on club boards. Argue the case for supporter involvement at board level and reform of the game wherever you can. So that was the update today, all the question answers for giving the Sports Trust. We just thought we would give you an overview of their take on things, where their stances are at the moment, leading up to the planned protest this weekend. It's important to get all the information you can about where the Supporters Trust are at the moment, and how they feel about the club and how the club are conducting themselves. And yeah, some interesting stuff there, I feel. Yeah, no, completely agree. And it's also important to note that We Are Tottenham TV are going to have a presence at the protest on the 15th, on the 16th, and on the 19th as well. We will not, I repeat, we will not be putting ourselves in the ballot for a ticket for that Aston Villa game, which is also important to note, but we will have a presence at all three demonstrations. So if anyone wants to come and join us, you're more than welcome to. And yeah, we'll see where we can go from there. But that is the update from the Supporters Trust today. That is the Q&A from the Supporters Trust as well today. So let me know in the comment section below if you have any thoughts regarding anything said by the Supporters Trust today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.